a lot of talk around now about artificial intelligence, almost to the extent you got a spectrum that goes from this is the greatest threat to humanity we've known to actually it could help us solve quite a lot of issues. Jonathan, where on that spectrum do you sit? And do you think it's going to, it runs the risk of undermining our democracy and way of life, or could it be of assistance?
Well, Helen, I think this is one of the biggest challenges of our time. And in terms of that spectrum, I find myself running up and down the line, depending on who I've listened to most recently. But, you know, if you listen to some of the really heavyweight thinkers in this space, like Jeffrey Hinton or Sir Demis Habbabis or, well, Sam Altman or even Mark Zuckerberg, I can't help but be somewhat frightened by what might lie ahead, particularly if we were to develop artificial general intelligence or super intelligent beings kind of thing, and the potential implications that that would have for humanity. We may not, of course, but in the meantime, just coming to your question, I'm deeply concerned that artificial intelligence is already having a damaging impact on the quality of democratic governance and discourse around the world. And it's doing that through magnifying the vast amounts of misinformation and disinformation that it's already in the arena, and through all manner of mechanisms, algorithms and echo chambers and so on. It's exacerbating the degree of political polarization that already exists, and thus making it all the more difficult to reach a consensus on the big issues that we need to try and address, like climate change or productivity issues or whatever, and increasing the risks that we will face ever declining trust in democratic institutions, which will ultimately potentially undermine the future of democracy. So on your question, where am I on the spectrum? I'm probably
up and down.
I'm at the nervous end, Helen, and how on earth we address some of those risks, I'm not really sure, but we need to try.
Lucy, bringing you in, what role is AI going to play in innovation in our economy? And I'll flick to Stephen after you, because, you know, can we, you know, accelerate productivity and value in our primary sector with AI as well? But Lucy, what role's it got in building our higher value knowledge economy?
I think it's a really good question, Helen, because as I listened to Jonathan, I felt exactly the same things that he was thinking. But at the same time, a phrase from the government's climate change strategy comes to mind, that it's a threat and an opportunity. And I think we have to see AI in that context. And I think the elders have rightly defined AI as a unregulated AI, I should say, as an existential threat to humanity. But this is an enormous opportunity. And there's a good context to see that is in health. I was lucky to travel to the UN General Assembly a couple of years ago with the Director General of Health, and I saw you there, Helen, speaking with the elders and doing other important things. But the penny dropped there, listening to what was happening in other systems, how AI, what the International Telecommunications Union is now theming AI for good. What was happening when the health sector in terms of AI for good? And there is a lot of opportunity for innovation. I think the key thing is it's always going to be a struggle for a small economy like New Zealand to have enough brains working on the policy and the regulation and the innovation side to take advantage of all the opportunities and to suitably control and moderate the opportunities to make sure they really deliver for New Zealand. So I guess my main thought is opportunity, but a threat as well needs to be well managed.
Yeah. Stephen, from that sort of agri-tech side?
Well, I guess I think Lucy's commentary about opportunity and risk applied to the agri-food sector and to the other sectors, really. But clearly there is a lot of benefit to be gained from the application of these technologies in creating competitiveness and productivity, the things we've been talking about as some of the core problems facing New Zealand. I sympathize with Jonathan, because I find myself a bit like this, although I don't know that I've gone into the detail. I'm sure as much as you have, Jonathan. But one thing that does give me a little bit more hope, and maybe this is a faint hope, is that we're talking a lot about this. There's a lot of discussion, some here in New Zealand, and certainly around the world. And I've been part of numerous conversations and discussions and projects in relation to this within the APEC grouping, where our trading partners are grappling with all of this. We're talking about this in a way we never talked about the rise of the internet. We never talked about a whole lot of other technologies that we've come across. So that gives me cause to hope. But I do think there are risks and opportunities. Bear in mind, one of the big other things that we are facing, globally, is in relation to sustainability and the ability to get on top of climate change. And here, AI and other technologies could assist with that and be part of that solution if regulated and used in a responsible sort of way. And I think that for our agri-food exports in particular is primary, because if we can, certainly here in New Zealand, if we can get on top of the sustainability question, if we can walk the talk and avoid the greenwashing, we have a whole new basis for competitiveness for our industries, which is why the whole discussion around, leaving the Paris Agreement to me just seems so crazy. Quite apart from anything, why would we want to send a message like that to global consumers and customers who increasingly are concerned about the origin of their food? But I think we do need, and I think you just said this, Lucy, we do need our best minds on this. The government's published an AI strategy, which seems to have been developed with AI. Well, at least you can see the traces of it. But obviously we need a lot more corridor around this topic.
Yeah, I should say that one of the leaders in AI development is a Kiwi. He's from Rotorua, went to Linmore Primary, Shane Legg. He was one of 3 in London who developed DeepMind, which was at the cutting edge. And in the end, it was hard to survive on their own because the mega companies come in and offer your staff, tens of millions of dollars in packages to poach them. And he now leads DeepMind as a unit within Google. So when you do a Google search and AI comes up, there's a Kiwi behind this, right? So, very interesting, the talent in our own ranks. And having spoken to Shane, he's very exercised about the governance issues and how to ensure it's a force for good. So more conversations to be had there.